WWNN Pompano Beach, and 95.3 FM, W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Get it straight from the expert's mouth on Ask the Experts with host Steve O. Every Thursday at 5 p.m.
Seniors, Medicare open enrollment is quickly approaching. Call I Will Advisors for a free review of your existing health care policy and learn about all of your Medicare options. Call Debbie at 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080.
Now you can get Talk 1470 WNN on 95.3 FM too. Loud and clear, Health and Wealth Radio, WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
In the words of Katharine Hepburn, if you obey all the rules, you'll miss all the fun.
We couldn't agree more.
I'm Karen Hansen.
And I'm Laura Rockland. Welcome to Wren and Roch. We'll entertain, inspire, and empower you to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself to take chances.
After all, if you only get one life, you might as well make it a great one. Hi, welcome to Wren and Roch. I'm Karen Hansen.
And I'm Laura Rockland, and the mission of our brand, Wren and Roch, is to empower victims and survivors of rape, domestic violence, and childhood sexual assault. Why? Because we are survivors and we are empowered.
And the mission of our show is to highlight others who are empowered and who are working to change the world and to make it a better place. So tonight we have a very interesting show. We have a very inspiring and very empowered guest. Her name is Lockie Maisonneuve. Hopefully we're saying that correctly, Lockie.
And you need to move your microphone needs to be closer. Sorry, a little technical difficulty here for those of you who may or may not have heard Karen speaking.
Okay, so our guest tonight is Lockie Maisonneuve, in case you didn't hear me say that.
Hopefully we pronounced that right.
Hopefully we did. If not, Lockie will correct us momentarily. But anyway, for those of you who know our story, our survivor story, and think that it sounds, wild, Lockie's story is also very interesting. It is definitely inspirational. She has survived alcoholic parents, a mother who abandoned her, a father who sold her into childhood prostitution. She survived breast cancer and the murder of her estranged mother. So
yeah, she seriously is a survivor in every sense of the word. So
yes, so we're very excited to talk to Lockie tonight and to hear her story firsthand. But before we get to Lockie, we want to let you know that you can call in if you have questions for us or for Lockie during the show. Yeah. And you can also write in with any questions on Facebook live stream during the show. We'll answer those questions as we receive them.
And the call-in number, if you have a pen handy, is 888-565-1470. So we do encourage calls for us or Lockie. And again, we can read messages if people do want to ask questions on Facebook Live. You can also listen to us on 95.3 FM or 1470 AM.
And as always, you can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter to see what we're up to and the work that we're doing in the world. You can also donate to the Wren and Roch Foundation. The funds for that go to support our work that we're doing throughout the country to raise awareness and to prevent sexual assault, domestic violence, and all of those subjects that we're very passionate about. So if you would like to do that, you can go onto our website and click on the foundation button in order to donate. You can also sponsor our show. We'll talk about our sponsors later tonight, but you can also sponsor the show. You can email us for that at wrenandroch.com.
And we also, if you guys notice, the tank top that I'm wearing tonight is Wren and Roch. We do have product. Thanks to B3 Studio, you can go to our website, click on the banner photo, and it'll show tank tops, T-shirts. Karen actually has a coffee mug, so you can support us that way. And 50% of the proceeds benefit the Wren and Roch Foundation. And like Karen said, you can also make a monetary donation.
Yes.
Quickly, on the front of handbags, this has been our #1 seller, the Street Smart handbag, because it's versatile, it's functional, and it's a very cool piece of art. So for those of you that are watching, our bags are made in the Garment District in New York City, and we are working on our fall collection, which is supposed to be amazing. It'll be coming out in a couple months, so stay tuned for that.
In time for the holidays.
Yes.
So, okay, now that we've gotten through all of that important information, we would like to officially introduce Lockie to the show.
Hi, Lockie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We just want to tell you, first of all, we've had so many likes on your photo and your story, and we've reached so many people. So I have a feeling we'll have a lot of listeners and viewers this evening.
I thank you. And I have to admit, I'm really humbled. When I heard you tell my story, I was thinking wow, that's messed up. Wow, okay.
We say the same thing about our story. We're like, wow, that happened to us.
We read it and we're like, wow, that makes me want to cry. And then we're like, oh yeah, we already did that, so we don't need to cry anymore. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. Like when you summarize it all like that, you're like, wow, that does sound really tragic. But you, like us, are an empowered survivor. You're doing something about it. Yeah, I mean, you've been through so much. It's like I know it sounds crazy to say that we're excited to tell your story, but with everything that you have been through, we're very excited for you to share with the viewers and the listeners how you've made it through all of that and why you're doing what you're doing, what it is that you're doing, and to also tell a little bit about your story. So,
So on that note, we'll just kind of dive into some of our questions that we have for you. So tell us, a little bit about your childhood and your upcoming memoir that you wrote, Raised by Wolves. I mean, we know obviously that you're an author, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a yoga instructor, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing it all. So we want to hear about your background and what brought this memoir into fruition.
And we love the name, by the way.
Yes.
I think it's kind of still in flux, but we think it's a really great name. It's very impactful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And the reason that the book is named I Was Raised by Wolves is because I used to deflect my story, and I've always used humor to sort of deflect conversations that I didn't want to have. So before I was willing to tell my story or share my story, when people said, tell me about your parents, or, what was Thanksgiving like in your house? And I would go, I was raised by wolves. And it would be a joke, and everybody would kind of go, okay, that's weird, and walk away, but it did the job. It deflected the story. And then when I went through my healing process and I began actually sharing my story, I really embraced, wow, I was really raised by wolves. I mean, these people were messed up.
Yeah, you're like, this was actually a true story, what I just said.
And that was, well, I don't want to jump ahead, but that was part of my healing process, is really realizing that it wasn't normal what I went through. And I always made the assumption that, well, all kids dealt with alcoholic parents. All kids dealt with, random abuse. All kids dealt with, people stealing their food, people coming into the house and stealing their clothes. All kids dealt with that. And when I started raising my own kids, realizing that no, kids didn't deal with that, that's not normal.
When that's your environment and you grow up in that, you don't know any different. So it's, like you said, you just think everybody's going through that, and they're not necessarily.
Exactly. So when to say about my childhood, both of my parents were alcoholics. They were extremely neglectful. I was pretty much on my own from the age of 11. And my parents separated when I was 5. They never actually got a divorce, just out of hating each other. That was their way of, I don't know, being angry, whatever. Right. My father left when I was around 5. I saw him sporadically, but he had pretty much gone. And when I was 11, my mother told my sister and I that we would be going to going to visit our estranged father in Florida, where he now lived. And we were like, cool, we're going to go on an airplane, we're going to see palm trees. Like, it's going to be great. We're going to have oranges, and it'll be lovely.
Sounds exciting.
And fresh orange. Come on. In Florida, a fresh squeezed orange is like the best. But anyway, I digress. But so while I was on the plane, my sister showed me the airline ticket, and she said, I just want you to understand this is a one-way ticket. And I heard Mom talking on the phone to this man who we barely know, and she said she's done. Like, she doesn't want to be our mother anymore. It's his turn. So we moved in with him, and things just went from bad to worse. And my father ended up selling me into childhood prostitution. He abused me first, and then he sent men into our house to abuse. We lived in a motel, and he would send men into the motel to abuse me.
And you were how old at this time? 11?
I was around 11. I had blocked most of it out. So the ages and are still a little fuzzy, but I have worked with therapists. I've worked with hypnotherapists. I've worked with, you name it, pretty much I've worked with it to piece together as much as we can about the story. So I blocked most of it out, and I was then abused until I was about, I'm going to say like 14-ish.
Did it happen to your sister as well, or just you?
So yes, my sister was abused. My sister and I are not currently on speaking terms for other reasons, but out of respect for my sister, I don't share her information. So, and I'm sure you can understand that.
Absolutely.
This is my story to tell. That's her story to tell, and I don't like to cross the two. But anyway, when I was around 14, 15-ish, I called my family, my father's mother, my paternal grandmother. I called her and said, either you come and get me, or no one in this family will ever see me again because I'm done. This man is a drunk. He is not fit to raise children, and I am not willing to live with him for another day.
Were you still in school at the time? Like, are you going to school every day while all of this is happening? Or?
Yep. I went to school every day. I didn't cut school. Well, I did cut school once, but it was my senior year in high school, and that's a whole other story. But at this time, I wasn't a senior yet, and I was going to school, and I lived in Delray Beach.
Which is about 5 seconds from where we are, by the way.
I know. That's why this is really kind of surreal, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it was Boynton Beach that I lived in at first, and then we lived in Delray Beach. And I lived in Delray Beach when it was not what it is now. It's gorgeous now. It is. When I lived there, it was like the dodgy end of, Florida. So this was back in the late 70s. So I'm sorry, I forget where I was. I just lost my train of thought.
So you were saying that you were, in high school, your dad had, all of this had gone on. You called your grandmother and said, I'm not dealing with this for another day.
Thank you. And yes, so my father's sister and brother came to get me, and they got my father, and we moved back to New Jersey. My sister had already come back to New Jersey previously. We came back to New Jersey, and my family said, where do you want to live? Which I said, well, I'm not going with my mother. I'm not going with my father because he was in a rehab facility drying out from being an alcoholic. And so I said, I either live with my paternal grandparents or I'm out. So I lived with my paternal grandparents, who I completely credit with saving my life. They provided a stable, amazingly peaceful, safe home for me until my father came home from rehab. But while I lived with them before he came back from rehab, I was safe, I was cared for, I was loved, and I was quote unquote normal. And I did what the only thing that I could do. I started high school, and I did the best I could do to fit in. And my uncle is a my uncle on my mother's side is a Vietnam vet, and I'm very close to him. And he was telling me once when he came back from Vietnam, it wasn't popular to be a Vietnam vet at the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And when he came back, he said, I faded to black. He said, I did everything I could to just fit in, grow my hair out, because he, had the military crew cut. And that really resonated with me in my adult life, him telling me that, because I feel like that's what I did. Mm-hmm. As I went back to process all the memories and process, like, how I did this and how I got through it, what I realized is I did the same thing. I sort of faded to black. I just wanted to fit in. Mm-hmm. So
right. A lot of people do that. A lot of mm-hmm. survivors of abuse, either they stop showering or they, like you said, they grow out their hair.
Form of protection, right.
Right. They gain weight. A lot of different things happen. So I want to make sure that we get to all of the questions that we want to get to. So just tell us quickly what ended up happening with your mother, and then let's talk more about, how you got beyond all of these challenges and struggles and the things that happened to you.
Well, with my mother, I didn't speak to so when I moved back to New Jersey, I didn't speak to my mother for 24 years. Wow. And there was really no reason to. I mean, she had given me away to a rapist. So, there was you really can't come back from that kind of a family incident. Like, it's really hard to meet up for Thanksgiving after that. Yeah. So I went and lived my life. As I said, I faded in to being as normal as possible. I got married. I never went to college, but I got married. I went through multiple different jobs. I married an amazing guy who I'm still with. We're actually celebrating 23 years this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And we have 2 children. And I had blocked everything out. So I had my son first. He's 18. And then I had my daughter, who's 14. And when I had my daughter, I thought I had not PTSD. I thought I had postpartum depression. And I remember saying to my husband one day, I think it's time. And he goes, for what? And I went, I don't know, but I'm going to call a therapist. Mm-hmm. And I called a therapist, and I said, something's wrong. I think I have, postpartum. I went to see her, and I ended up in therapy for 18 months, processing memories that were showing up for me as flashbacks. Mm-hmm. And for the people watching or listening, if you don't know what a flashback is, it's sort of like in your mind's eye, you see this, you see images of things that you experienced or that you saw happen. And it's sort of like your brain's way of bringing it back in to force you into remembering. And that's what I saw. I saw these extremely violent images, and I was trying to live my life. I was raising my son. I was taking care of this beautiful little baby girl I had. I had a job. I would cook dinner at night, but I'd be driving down the road, or I'd have a client presentation, and I would be sitting there in a room full of men doing a presentation, having a flashback. Wow. And I have no idea how I got through.
Yeah, that's why we always say you never know what someone's going through, what things appear to be on the outside. You never know what's happening to someone on the inside.
And what could trigger, those flashbacks, or if they're just coming, out of the blue. So that's really incredible. What do you think, Lockie, like the most impactful words that someone has said to you? I mean, and we talked about impactful. Like, I know for Karen, her teacher said, "You'll never amount to." No.
It's actually my stepfather who said, "You'll never amount to anything." So I was like, okay, that's cool. Let me spend the rest of my life proving him wrong. So we were saying it could be positive, or I had a teacher who did say something very positive, who said, you can be anything that you want to be, and don't let anything stand in your way. So what were the most impactful words that someone said to you, whether it was something negative that drove you forward, or if it was something positive like that?
Yeah, and was there one person who helped you to stay strong? It sounds like your
uncle,
grandparents,
grandparents as well.
Definitely. Well, my mother's brother he has a huge impact on my life. Yeah. But my paternal grandmother, she always used to say to me, you know, honey, you just have to understand. She never knew any of this happened to me.
Wow.
And she always used to say to me, living well is the best revenge. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is pick up whatever you can pick up from an experience and go live your best life.
Right.
And I sort of, I literally took that to heart. And am I allowed to curse on this show?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
She also used to say, well, then I'll clean it up, but she also used to say, don't worry about it. They can't talk another hole in your rear end.
Right.
So, I'm glad I asked that question.
I'm glad you did too. We've been very well trained.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to break any rules. But so she told me those two things. And the other thing that was said to me that had an enormous impact on my healing was I was really struggling for a decade or so with forgiveness. And I always felt like, you know, people would always say, oh, if you don't forgive, you won't have peace in your heart. If you don't forgive, you won't heal. If you don't forgive, and I felt like, why is this my job?
Exactly.
Like,
it's so
why am I
frustrating.
giving another to do?
Right.
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend one day, and I was really in a space of just having an inquiry or really pondering, why can't I forgive? Like, what is wrong with me that I cannot forgive my abusers? And my girlfriend, I asked her that question, and she just looked at me and really straight-faced without even thinking. There wasn't even a pause. And she said, Lockie, then don't forgive. Just release what you need to release.
Right.
Release the pain, the shame, the anger, and walk away.
Right. Exactly.
And that's tied in with what my grandmother said about living well is your best revenge.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
real quick, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be back shortly.
Shannon Specialty Floors is the source for dependable, durable, and beautiful commercial resilient flooring with outstanding, high-quality product lines matched only by our uncompromising service. Our expert sales representatives work in partnership with you, delivering insights, enthusiasm, and collaboration to help you meet deadlines and exceed expectations. Since 1921, it's been our promise. When your reputation is on the line, we deliver for you. Contact ShannonSpecialtyFloors.com for more information.
Break time is over.
Welcome back to the show. Okay, now that we're back, we want to thank our sponsors for tonight's show. Ivy Lee's Luxe Makeup and Beauty Lounge for the glam that we've got going on tonight.
Yes,
so thank you, Ivy and Lisa. Also to Shannon Specialty Floors for being a platinum sponsor for the show tonight, and movietickets.com. This is the last night they're sponsoring, but we appreciate everything that they've done for us as well. So we're back.
Yes, thank you all. Okay, so back to Lockie and our next couple of questions. We just have a few minutes left, so we want to try to get as much in as we can. So one of the questions that we had is if you were to give advice to a young person who is struggling, so maybe they're in a situation like what you are in or something, you know, equally horrific, what would be advice that you would give to them, who to talk to,
how to overcome it, you know, just what in a sound bite, what would your best advice?
Break all of the rules that you can break and get out of there. Get the help that you need. Go to the police station, go to a trusted teacher, go to an advisor, you know, just get yourself out of there and trust that the right people will be put in front of you, that not blindly.
Right.
Trust that the right people will be put in front of you to help you.
I love that you have on your website your quote, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. So really just coming, you know, to grips with whatever the truth is. I mean, our voices shake, you know, when we're like
even though we've told the story 100 times.
So that's showing vulnerability, that's showing courage and your fearlessness. So I think that's great.
Right. And so on that note, as you said, going to someone to try to get help from the opposite side, from the outside looking in, Is there a sign that someone could have caught in your situation where they could have spotted that something was happening in your world, that something was wrong? You're going to school every day.
Teachers aren't picking up on anything. There weren't any warning signs now, like looking back on the situation.
Right. Is there something that someone could look out for to be able to save a child?
Excuse me?
In order to be able to save a child from a situation that they might be in, to have like an intervention.
Yes. I would say it's not one particular thing. You know, most kids are really good at being groomed to hide.
Right.
You know, because they don't want to be singled out. I mean, think about it. If you're a 14-year-old girl, the last thing that you want is someone to know that you had sex with someone, whether it was your choice or not your choice.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's humiliating.
Right.
What I would always say, I mean, having my own teenage daughter, I always watch for a combination of things. One of the main things I watch for is a drastic change in behavior. And
that's very true.
Yes. Children, right? If you know your children, which as a parent we do,
right?
You know when they go from being, you know, happy and dancing around and being goofy to all of a sudden they're completely sullen, for too long. You know, if they show up as being afraid to go somewhere, if all of a sudden they're afraid to go into the locker room after an athletic sport or practice, or if they suddenly don't want to go to a friend's house and they're visibly upset about it. I mean, it sounds like, well, who wouldn't notice that? But most of us see that, and on the surface, we think things like, oh, my teenager's being disrespectful, or they're being lazy, they don't want to go, or blah, blah, blah.
Right, and you feel like you're overacting.
Right.
Or overreacting. Just quickly, we also want to make sure that we know that people can find you, that they know how to read about your story and your website. Do you want to give some information so that people can read more about you after the show ends?
Please, thank you. So the best way to get in touch with me is to go onto Facebook, onto my page, I Was Raised by Wolves, and then it says dash, a working title. You can also go to my website, which is LockieMaisonneuve.com, but if I spell that out, I think I'm going to take up the rest of my time on your show.
Yes.
So
they can come to our website or Facebook and find it as well.
True.
Go to Facebook, and it's I Was Raised by Wolves, and you'll find everything there. You'll have connections to my website. You'll have connections to my other social media pages. And please, if you have a question and you're struggling with letting go of something, or you're struggling with figuring out how to share your story or how to come to terms with it, reach out to me. Because if I can't help you, I can almost promise you that either I know someone who can, or we can get you into
the right resources
to figure it out.
That's perfect.
That's huge.
And I know you have your Let It Go workshops, and people can read more about that on your website. Do you have a release date for your memoir?
I don't have a release date yet because I'm about 3/4 of the way through writing the book.
Right.
I'm working with a literary agent, and according to my literary agent, until I have upwards of 25,000 to 30,000 followers.
Are you listening, people? We need followers.
Yes. This is one of the reasons that we brought Lockie on the show, because she really needs followers in order to move her mission forward as well.
Well, we really appreciate your time tonight, Lockie. Have a great evening, everybody, and thanks again for listening. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for today's show.
Please join us at the same time next week for your weekly dose of entertainment, inspiration, and empowerment.
We'll see you next week.